For millions, his voice was the whisper of mountain breezes, the echo of country roads, the very sound of comfort and peace. John Denver, the golden boy with the wire-rimmed glasses and the easy smile. He painted musical landscapes that felt like home. But behind those gentle eyes, a storm was brewing. A country road indeed, but one that led to a cliff edge. For a quarter century, John Denver was RCA Records' darling, their undisputed golden child. He sold out arenas, shattered sales records, and his albums became soundtracks to an entire generation's lives. And then, without warning, the music stopped. RCA, the very label he'd built empires for, cast him aside. Why? Because the carefully constructed image of gentle warmth, of the wholesome troubadour, began to crack. Dark truths seeped out. His ex-wives, the women who knew him best, began to speak. They spoke of a volatile temper, of erratic, unpredictable behavior. They spoke of a love affair with alcohol that cost him more than just peace of mind. It cost him his pilot's license. By 1997, John Denver was legally grounded. He wasn't allowed to fly, but he did anyway. The plane that ultimately took his life wasn't just any aircraft. It was a recent acquisition, an experimental craft with a critical, almost unbelievable design flaw. When investigators painstakingly pieced together the fragments of what happened that tragic day, the truth was chilling. The crash, the final, fatal plunge, could have been avoided. Every warning sign was blaring, every red flag was waving. But no one, not even John, seemed to pay attention. His journey, which had soared to such incredible heights, was about to make its final, devastating descent. To understand the man, we have to go back to the beginning. Born Henry John Deutschendorf Jr. on December 31st, 1943, in Roswell, New Mexico, yes, that Roswell, his lineage was steeped in the very skies that would later claim him. His father, Henry Dutch Deutschendorf Sr., wasn't just a pilot. He was an Air Force legend, a man who set blistering speed records in a B-58 Hustler bomber, a hero inducted into the Air Force Hall of Fame. Aviation was in their blood. But for young John, his upbringing was far from stable. Being a military kid meant constant motion. Arizona, Alabama, Texas, a blur of new towns, new schools, and fleeting faces. Friendships never had a chance to deepen. That profound sense of rootlessness, of never truly belonging, followed him his entire life. He often described feeling like a stranger, even in his own home, adrift in a world that never quite felt like his own. And then, at the tender age of 11, a lifeline. In Tucson, his grandmother placed a worn 1910 Gibson guitar into his hands. It became his anchor in a world of constant change. Music wasn't just a hobby, it was a sanctuary. It became the voice for the boy who often struggled to speak. He joined the Tucson Boys Chorus, learning not just harmony, but the art of performance, the feeling of shared purpose. Music finally gave him a sense of belonging, a place to land. By high school, he was already performing folk songs at local gigs, a gentle soul drawn to melody and verse. His strict military father, a man of rigid discipline, struggled to understand his son's softer nature, his dream to write songs. Yet paradoxically, they found common ground in the vast, boundless sky. As John earned his pilot's license, the cockpit became their shared escape, a silent communion above the clouds. That same exhilarating passion, however, would later cast a long, haunting shadow over John's life. The call of music was too strong to ignore. He briefly enrolled in architecture at Texas Tech, but the blueprints of buildings couldn't hold him. He dropped out, packed his bags, and headed for the burgeoning folk scene in Los Angeles. It was there he shed his birth name, Henry John Deutschendorf Jr., and embraced a new identity. Inspired by the majestic beauty of Colorado's capital, he adopted the name Denver. It was more than just a name. It was a fresh start, a symbolic shedding of the past, and a leap into the unknown, a leap that came with both exhilarating risks and unimaginable rewards. In 1965, his relentless pursuit paid off. From 250 hopeful applicants, John was chosen to join the Chad Mitchell Trio. 2 years of rigorous touring and recording became his unofficial music industry education. He learned the ropes, honed his craft, and during this time, he penned a song that would forever change his trajectory, Leaving on a Jet Plane. It became a #1 hit, not for him, but for the iconic folk group, Peter, Paul, and Mary. The world was beginning to hear his words, even if they didn't yet know his name. The floodgates truly opened in 1971 with the release of his album Poems, Prayers, and Promises, and on it, a track that would become an anthem, a cultural phenomenon. Take Me Home, Country Roads. Thanks to savvy radio promotion and its irresistible chorus, it swept the nation, eventually going gold and becoming West Virginia's official state song. It was pure magic. The momentum was unstoppable. Rocky Mountain High followed in 1972, soaring into the Billboard Top 10, becoming another regional anthem, this time for Colorado. His success snowballed, almost uncontrollably. Between 1974 and 1975, John Denver was simply unavoidable. He landed an astounding 4 #1 hits. Sunshine on My Shoulders, Annie's Song, the jubilant Thank God I'm a Country Boy, and the heartbreakingly sincere I'm Sorry. His albums didn't just sell, they went multi-platinum. And here's a fact that might stun you. RCA's best-selling album of all time wasn't Elvis Presley. It was John Denver's greatest hits. His concerts were more than just performances. They were intimate gatherings. He exuded a rare warmth, sharing stories, making every fan feel like they knew him personally, like he was singing directly to them. John Denver was more than just a musician. He was a cultural force. In 1977, he surprised everyone by starring in the hit film Oh God, alongside the legendary George Burns. He had no formal acting experience, yet his natural charm and undeniable sincerity captivated audiences, proving his appeal stretched far beyond the concert hall. He even became an unlikely style icon. His signature look, long flowing blonde hair, those instantly recognizable wire-rimmed glasses, and those distinctive embroidered Western shirts designed by Anna Zapp, became synonymous with his wholesome, approachable image. He wasn't trying to be cool, he just was. His reach transcended borders. He connected with fans across the globe through British TV specials and extensive international tours. He became one of the few artists to truly bridge the divides of the Cold War, undertaking groundbreaking tours of the Soviet Union in 1985, and again after the devastating Chernobyl disaster, performing to raise funds and awareness. He even learned and performed songs in Russian, a testament to his profound desire to connect, to build bridges through music. In 1992, his message of peace and unity took him to China, where he performed for millions, a truly historic moment. Songs like Country Roads were already beloved among Chinese youth learning English, proving the universal appeal of his melodies and heartfelt lyrics. But his passion extended far beyond the stage. John Denver was a tireless champion of humanitarian causes. He released charity albums to combat homelessness, co-founded the Hunger Project, a global initiative to end starvation. He launched the Winstar Foundation and Plant 2000 with the ambitious goal to reforest the planet, one tree at a time. His outreach was vast, touching education and spearheading environmental awareness campaigns long before it was fashionable. And in 1985, the gentle troubadour showed a surprising, fierce side. He stood before the U.S. Senate, testifying in defense of musicians against proposed warning labels on albums, a direct attack on artistic freedom. Despite his wholesome image, he stood firm against censorship, passionately arguing that art should never be shackled. He famously pointed out the absurdity of his own song, Rocky Mountain High, having once been wrongly flagged as drug-related. His powerful testimony wasn't just for himself. It helped fundamentally shift the national conversation about music and free expression, protecting the very essence of creativity for all artists. Yet, behind the scenes, a different, far more tumultuous story was unfolding. The idyllic facade began to crumble. His first marriage to Annie Martel, the inspiration for Annie's song, ended not in harmony, but in bitter discord. After a heated argument over trees being cut down on their property, an infamous incident occurred. John, in a fit of rage, used a chainsaw to destroy their marital bed, and then their furniture. Divorce documents that followed chillingly revealed allegations of abuse. The gentle John Denver, the man of peace, harbored a darker side that few could comprehend. His second marriage to Cassandra Delaney began in a whirlwind of passion. But the age gap, coupled with insidious jealousy and crippling control issues, soon surfaced. Cassandra later spoke openly about living in an emotionally abusive environment, a stark contrast to the loving image the public adored. By 1993, this marriage too dissolved, spiraling into a brutal legal battle. Denver, deeply hurt and feeling utterly betrayed, launched lawsuits, accusing Cassandra of deceit. Their young daughter, Jessie, became tragically ensnared in a bitter, public custody fight, pulling back the curtain on a deeply fractured private life. In 1994, John Denver made a decision that stunned the world. He released a tell-all autobiography, Take Me Home. In its pages, he laid bare his deepest secrets, admitting to extensive use of LSD, cocaine, and marijuana. He confessed to infidelity, to bouts of explosive rage. The public, who had embraced him as the embodiment of purity and wholesome values, was utterly blindsided. The man who sang of peaceful mountains and sunshine had demons few could have ever imagined. It was a raw, unfiltered look at a soul in turmoil. Around the same time, the music industry itself was undergoing a seismic shift. RCA Records, his loyal label for decades, now owned by the cold, calculating hand of General Electric, dropped him in 1986. After years of unwavering loyalty, after selling millions upon millions of records, there was simply no place for him. He was replaced by newer, flashier acts, artists who fit the evolving, more corporate mold. John began releasing albums under his own independent label, but they lacked the colossal reach and promotion of his RCA heyday. His once invincible career now faced an uphill battle. With his music career in decline, John's passion turned almost singularly to flying. He logged an astonishing 2,700 flight hours, soaring through the skies in everything from graceful gliders to powerful Learjets. It was his escape, his true freedom. But his ongoing battle with alcohol addiction caught up with him. Multiple DUIs in the 1990s led the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, to revoke his medical certificate. Without that certificate, he could not legally fly. It was a direct order, a clear prohibition. But John, perhaps seeing himself above the rules, simply ignored them. He sent the FAA's certified letters back, unopened, hoping to exploit a loophole, to pretend he hadn't officially been served. It was a dangerous game of denial. In March of 1997, that loophole finally closed. He signed for a letter. The game was over. John Denver was officially grounded. He was forbidden to fly. Yet, on October 12, 1997, just months after being officially grounded, John Denver took off from a small airport in Monterey, California. His aircraft, a Long Easy experimental plane, a craft he had owned for a mere single day. This particular plane had a terrifying design flaw. The fuel switch, the very lever that controlled the lifeblood of the engine, was located in an almost inaccessible spot, directly behind the pilot's left shoulder, requiring pliers to operate. And the fuel gauges, also behind him, hard to read, vague, and tragically misleading. He was practicing touch-and-go landings, repeatedly taking off and landing, burning through fuel. He ran one tank completely dry. As the engine sputtered, the silence of the cockpit was suddenly shattered by the desperate struggle for power. John twisted in his seat, straining to reach that impossible fuel switch. And in that desperate, contorted maneuver, he accidentally pushed a rudder pedal, sending the plane into an uncontrolled, irreversible nosedive. The Long Easy plunged into the Pacific Ocean, off the coast of Monterey. He died instantly. The National Transportation Safety Board, the NTSB, conducted a thorough, painstaking investigation. Their findings were a devastating indictment. The crash was caused by a lack of fuel, John's profound unfamiliarity with the newly acquired aircraft, and the dangerous, almost inconceivable modifications to the fuel system. A tragic, entirely avoidable end to a life that had touched so many. John Denver soared to the very pinnacle of the world, a voice that captivated millions. And yet he plummeted just as hard, his internal struggles mirroring the turbulent skies he so loved. His life was a symphony, full of soaring beauty, punctuated by moments of dark turbulence, and ultimately silenced far too soon. But the silence of that final crash could never truly extinguish his light. John Denver left behind a timeless, indelible legacy, not just in the staggering number of records sold or the awards won, but in the countless hearts he touched, the lives he enriched. His songs spoke of the raw, untamed beauty of nature, of the enduring power of love, of the comforting embrace of home. Yet, listen closely, and they also echo the profound longings, the hidden flaws, the very human struggles of the complex man who wrote them. From the simple, universal yearning of "Take me home, country roads" to the majestic expanse of Rocky Mountain High, Denver's music will forever transport us back to a simpler time, a more innocent era. The voice that once filled stadiums, that once soared through the vast open sky, now rests in silence. But its echoes, those beautiful, haunting melodies, they endure. They ripple through generations, a gentle reminder of the golden boy who taught us to love the world, even as he grappled with his own inner storms. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, how a voice so pure, so filled with joy, could come from a life so often touched by turmoil. John Denver's story isn't just about music. It's a profound human story about the masks we wear, the battles we fight in private, and the complex relationship between genius and personal struggle. It's a reminder that even the brightest stars can hide immense pain. Perhaps his enduring message lies not just in the comfort his songs brought, but in the quiet, unspoken lesson of his life, that sometimes the greatest talent is a fragile gift, easily overshadowed by the very demons it tries to outrun. His journey, like that country road, was long, winding, and ultimately unforgettable. But what a road it was! Let's delve deeper into that critical design flaw in the Long Easy, because it's chilling. Imagine, in the midst of a critical maneuver, or God forbid, an engine sputtering emergency, needing to literally twist your entire body, reaching behind your shoulder, fumbling for pliers to flip a switch that controls whether you live or die. It's a design that seems to defy common sense, yet it was there. And John, despite his vast experience, had only had this plane for a single day. Was it hubris? Desperation? A deep-seated need to fly that eclipsed all caution? His choice to fly, knowing he was grounded, knowing the risks, speaks volumes about a man teetering on the edge. He received those certified letters from the FAA, the official notice that he was forbidden to operate an aircraft. He returned them unopened, a legal loophole he hoped would protect him. But the law and gravity ultimately don't care about loopholes. This wasn't a sudden, unforeseen tragedy. It was a culmination of choices, of struggles, and a fatal attraction to the very thing that offered him freedom, yet demanded such a terrible price. What if he hadn't flown that day? What if he had confronted his demons sooner? These are the haunting questions that linger. But perhaps the true measure of John Denver isn't in his final moments, but in the vast, beautiful tapestry he wove with his music. He was a voice for environmentalism before it was mainstream, a global ambassador for peace at a time of deep division. He made us feel connected to the earth, to each other, and to something larger than ourselves. His songs, infused with the purity of nature and the simplicity of human emotion, offered solace and hope. They were a refuge in a chaotic world. And in that way, despite his personal struggles, he left the world a richer, more melodious place. He found his voice, not just to sing, but to advocate, to love, to inspire. John Denver's journey truly was like a country road, long, winding, and profoundly unforgettable. A road that led him to the peaks of fame, through the valleys of despair, and ultimately into the silent embrace of the vast open sky he loved so much. His voice may be gone, but the songs, the anthems of a generation, will forever remind us of the golden boy who tried to take us home. Country roads, to the place we belong.